I started to paint in order to paint portraits. So that was from when, as far as I remember, really as a child, my interest in painting was to paint portraits. And my mother was a painter, also a portrait painter. She was a very sort of academic oil painting of landscapes, of still lifes, and also of portraits. From an early age of really 5, 7 years old, I started to paint portraits with oil paint, and this has been going on. This exhibition at Muzak is a selection of almost 30 years of my work. The show starts with a painting, actually a photographic work of 1990, and ends with the first of the last series of painting I've been working on, called Messenger. The first work that I mentioned is a self-portrait. It's called Self-Portrait as a Child. It is a collage of photographs mounted on canvas with encaustic on top, and comes from a picture of myself as a boy of around 10 years old in Teherán, where I was born and where I was raised. And that is the beginning of the exhibition. Architecture has been a big part of my practice. Although I'm not an architect and I never study architecture, but I've had that intense interest in architecture and in physical space and the buildings as far as I remember since I was a teenager. And in my work, you can see architecture from beginning, actually. In the first room, you have the work that is called Konya, which has a lot of architectural elements that they come from my trip to Konya to visit Rumi's mausoleum. Then we go to the second and third room, which are that large work called Dryland, which is a mixture of painting and photographs, or architecture of buildings and facades in Detroit. That actually took me like several years to really compose that work the way I wanted, on which there are parts of it that I painted portraits with oil paint on top of architecture. And this is the photographic aspect of architecture that has been in my work. And then we go to these individual portraits that I've been painting in large formats. I've started them in like early 2000s, and they're ongoing. As Stephen Henry Madoff, the curator of the show, was saying, that each room has its own surprise. The room that we are in it right now, you have like a group of 7 large portraits, but then you have the surprise of a large painting of hands in prayer, which is like a very direct symbol in Christianity, in Hinduism, in Buddhism, in many different world religions. From there, we go to another space where there is abstract geometric work that I've been doing for the past 15 years or something, which are the Dome series and Endless Prayers, that again, they refer to domes, to ceilings of sacred architecture. And although the domes in my work are abstract, because real dome has perspective, and they don't have any perspective, they're all the same size. The reason of it is that it conveys a sense of infinity, that this can go on and on. The last room of the show is my last works, obviously, except one sculpture that dates 2005, and which is floor sculpture, circular floor sculpture, incorporate a poem of Rumi. Besides that, the other works in that last room are this series that I started 2017-18. They're abstract and they're painted with indigo blue, and they're called night paintings. And then among these night paintings, there is one which has figures, which inspired by a a 19th century photograph of an Indian saint, Ramakrishna, who's standing there in ecstasy, and there is a group of his devotees around him. That is the only one of those indigo paintings that has figures. Others are purely abstract.